Hello, it's me again. I'm back with another video, and this time I'm in an aircraft building and flying simulation called Flyout because I want to show you uh, the two main projects that I've built in this game. It was a while ago that I made both of these, but back then I hadn't gotten my channel off of the ground, so I couldn't really show you then. So now that I'm able to, I'm showing you now. And besides, I put all the work into building these, so I may as well, right? And first you can see here is a recreation I made of a prototype jet that I got to see in person at an air museum, which I went to for one of my previous birthdays in the recent years. And I was very, captivated by its look, really, above anything else. Because it looks, kind of like a spacecraft. And, anything that looks halfways like a jet and halfways like a spacecraft, I just find that very nice to look at aesthetically. So I set out to recreate it in Flyout, and I didn't know if anyone had done that before me in Flyout when I went to go and do it. It turns out someone did. I haven't tried theirs. I don't know how well it performs comparatively to mine, but I don't too much mind. It was just fun to build. And as you can see here, it certainly flies as well. Now, I believe it was a challenge getting mine to fly because I wasn't very experienced with the game at the time, and everything in this game is quite complicated. But that also gives it a lot of depth, which allows you, as you can see here, to either recreate or create aircraft with amazing detail. And this one was, I believe, a joint European project, the real one, I mean. And they built two of them, and one of them flew. And it was supposed to be a tactical strike and reconnaissance aircraft, which means it would have either performed nuclear strikes or reconnaissance, which, that was back when we still thought that nuclear strike aircraft were viable, or back when the idea of them was viable, before we decided, just to use rockets, or hopefully not use those rockets. You know, wouldn't end well for any of us, but I digress. I did model some things, like some moving parts on the aircraft, like I'm using the air brakes you can see in the footage here. And the canopy does open as well. Uh, there are two kind of hatches for the pilots in there. And of course, at the time that I was building this, I was super into Flyout. Like, I thought it was going to be, huge for me. And I also thought it was going to be, very quickly developed, but development's actually been very slow in Flyout. Well, I can't blame the developer because for the longest time it's been one developer, and I think he's only just brought on another one now, recently. But yeah, maybe, when Flyout gets more updates, you'll see more creations from me. And I'm definitely not just talking, padding out time while we get over this segment with the TSR2 and on to the next thing. But here I'm showing you just how, you know, in depth the mon the modeling system is in Flyout. This one here, this aircraft is primarily made of two different fuselage pieces for the front half and the back half, with them meeting at about where the intakes are, just because I found that was a much easier way to build it than any other way. I'm quite happy with the results, at least for the most part. But next I show you something here that's a lot more into the world of fiction. This is a recreation of a flying battleship design from a quite arcadey air combat game called Project Wingman, which is inspired quite heavily by the Ace Combat series. Now, obviously, I played Project Wingman, I quite liked it, and these giant flying battleships were definitely my favorite thing about the world that the game is set in. I just think aesthetically, they're real. It would be real impressive to see anything even remotely like this in person, right? And I also just quite like the idea of these giant, slowly flying machines. Obviously, it's mostly an aesthetic thing when it comes to my preference for it. I think if these were any practical, we'd probably have something like it in real life. So, at least in real life times, I guess these are not practical. But the reason they can do this in the universe of Project Wingman is that you may have noticed that it has some interesting engines going on with the lights. One of the lights on this one is broken. It's white. It's not supposed to be, so ignore that. But in Project Wingman, they have some kind of reactor and some kind of element called cordium. So they have these cordium reactor engines. I believe it works in a similar way to a nuclear reaction, like, a fission reaction, but it's meant to be very powerful and very efficient. So they use those to power these giant flying vehicles. And right now I'm just showing you, for one, the armaments that I also built for these aircraft, which say, 4-point defense Gatling turrets and some missile pods, both of which can tilt up and down and swivel left and right to aim at targets, as you would imagine a flying battleship would need to do, since unlike a fighter jet, it can't just point the nose at whatever it wants to shoot down. And you're seeing here that I've made some different paint jobs for this as well that are also from the original game. And you're seeing I guess the second version, the upgraded version of the airship, which has railguns on it. Obviously, the turrets that are on these vehicles are just, my own design, my own interpretation, because I'm not sure how they're modeled in Project Wingman. I haven't really been able to see, so I didn't have any reference for that. And the two different sets of paint jobs that I have for this are, for the forces you're working for in the game and the opposing force. And this is one of the opposing force ones here with the black and yellow accents, which, I'm quite a fan of this paint job. I mean, it's obviously quite simplistic, but, I just like those colors. I also made my own civilian kind of version, because there are civilian versions of these airships in Project Wingman that I can imagine serve a similar sort of purpose to, commercial airliners, or maybe even they would be like flying cruise ships where, you'd be expected to stay on them for a long time. And, same sort of thing you would have on a cruise ship, I suppose. And here you can see I'm just taking it into the air. Now, it took me quite a while to build both of these creations. Obviously, I was new to Flyout as well, for one, but also it just takes time to, you know, recreate something from references and get the design down to a level of detail that you're happy with, and an accuracy that you're happy with as well. lots of my, energy went into making these, especially the airship here. And up until now, the only thing it really did was sitting on my computer, and sometimes I sent screenshots to my friends. That was about it. That was all it was for. It was just for my enjoyment. And it still is. But I'm glad now that I'm getting to share this with you all, because it means that it's more than just something sitting on my PC. I am also trying to show off here the realistic aircraft lights that are on the wings and the top and bottom of the fuselage. Because planes in real life, you'll probably know, they have the red and green lights, one on either wingtip, and they have the flashing white strobe lights as well. And I've included those on this. Not exactly related, but, in terms of what the aircraft has. The last one had landing gear. I couldn't put landing gear on this one, at least not without file editing landing gear size to be absolutely huge. But also these, in their own universe of Project Wingman, these aren't supposed to land on the land anyway, I'm quite sure. They have seaports that they sit in. So they float in the water like actual ships, and then take off from there. They don't land on the ground. But my version, I don't think does either of those things. I believe I've tried to land this in water at some point, and in Flyout that just doesn't go well with its water physics. It just doesn't like it. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. And what I've done here in the game, just to show off the aircraft lights, is I've, I believe, sped up time or rewound it, one or the other, to get to a sunset or sunrise. Because that's something you can do in this game. You can, change where the rotation of the planet is. Which is a full-scale Earth-sized planet that the world is simulated in. I should mention before time runs out in this video. But yes, that's nearly about it now. I'll catch you all very soon. Thank you very much for watching. I'm glad I could share this with you. And unlike the gap between last video and this one, I'll be seeing you quite soon, I'm pretty sure. Rather than, taking an age. See you next time.